Nellie Bly, Ida Tarbell, and Ida B. Wells are three famous female journalists who paved the way for their predecessors. In 1892, Ida Tarbell embarked on a journey to investigate the shady business practices of John D. Rockefeller and the Standard Oil Company. Her history of the Standard Oil Company was a landmark work of investigative journalism that became known as muckraking. This outraged the public and led the government to prosecute the company for violations of the Sherman Antitrust Act. Years after, the Supreme Court upheld the breakup of Standard Oil. For this, she became the most famous female journalist of her time. It was journalism like hers that inspired Americans of the 20th century to seek reform in the government, economy, and urban areas. Ever since this, newspapers have played a leading role with the watchdog function. In 1884, Ida B. Wells Barnett filed a lawsuit against a train car company for throwing her off a first-class train despite having a ticket. Although she won the case on the local level, the ruling was overturned in federal court. Afterwards, one of her friends was lynched, and Wells Barnett turned her attention to white mob violence and lynchings. Her life was put at risk, and she was forced to move to Chicago from Memphis. Because of her race, she faced much ridicule and ostracization by women's suffrage organizations and many other Americans. Nevertheless, she remained active for women's rights and eventually became a founder for the NAACP, although her name was not mentioned as an official founder. In 1887, Nellie Bly stormed into Joseph Pulitzer's office and demanded permission to write a story regarding the immigrant experience in the United States. However, Pulitzer challenged Bly to investigate a notorious New York mental asylum instead, Blackwell's Island. To do this, she decided to go completely undercover by feigning mental illness to gain admission and expose firsthand how patients were treated. And from this experience, wrote a 6-part series called 10 Days in a Madhouse, which quickly made Bly one of the most famous journalists in the country. The shocking discoveries led to increased funding to improve conditions in the asylum. Additionally, her career reached new heights when she decided to travel around the world after reading Jules Verne's Around the World in 80 Days. She would set a record of only 72 days for a few months.